seen all this talk. There's everything from Robert Kennedy's Instagram posts, who I absolutely respect and think has some great opinions. For those who haven't followed Robert, you know, he's been involved in the non-profit space, in the health space, working with his disability foundation in the Olympics and all kinds of things. And he's sharing a lot of stuff right now about Bill Gates and the whole vaccine issue. We're seeing a lot of posts on 5G. I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts, their own opinion. And hey, Electra. And so what I want to start by saying is that, you know, I'm seeing a lot of vitriol and a lot of people, you know, with their pissed off rant posts that, oh, the conspiracy theorists. So just because something isn't what you agree with, or just because you're not educated or informed or read up on other options, doesn't mean everything goes in the box of that's a conspiracy theorist. And the other thing I think is really important to say is that even if, you know, I have a lot of friends in the healing community, in the awakened space, I would say, that work in different realms of consciousness. And what I would say is that just because you have those out of the box ideas that might be different to everybody else doesn't mean that they're not in lockdown. And I think that's one of the big distinctions that I want to make, that a lot of people feel like if people come out and they speak their personal truth, and this is what we have to remember as a collective, as in a society, people can have their own personal truths. It doesn't have to be your truth. It doesn't have to be a bigger community truth, but it's their truth, and it can often be a community of people who think like them, that are like-minded. But when you hear people talking about thinking that it could possibly be 5G, or that it could possibly be a conspiracy, that there is something else going on, that doesn't mean they're not also going, this is very serious, this is deadly, and we still need to be locked down, and that is our best chance of flattening the curve. And so I think that it's important to make that distinction, because I've seen a lot of posts this week with that kind of tone of trying to shut people down, thinking they're crazy for having any other idea, because they're assuming if they believe that this is a conspiracy or being done deliberately, that they then mean that it then means and that they believe that there's no need to worry about it. And that has not been my truth or my experience with a lot of people I've had conversations with these past weeks who believe something more is going on. And what I would say is, there's always something more going on. I mean, we'd have to be completely asleep not to believe by this point something more is going on. I mean, we have proof with the, you know, cigarettes and smoking, that it was hidden for years, with opiates, with the big pharmaceutical industry. We know that they're all in bed together. We know that our governments are corrupt to a certain degree. So yes, absolutely, there's more going on. And what that is, we don't know. And my thought on it is, my truth on it is that it's yes and yes, but. Yes, we're here now. So we have no choice. We have mass graves being dug in New York City. So do we have to be in lockdown? Do we have to be careful? Do we have to make sure that people are safe and okay? Because this isn't about you anymore. You know, I saw a great interview with a man who lost 3 members of his family, both of his parents. Hey, Patricia. Hey, Petite. Hey, Sally, Christine. Good to have you all on here. Hey, Rich. So I was just sort of saying that I feel like there's a lot of energy and a lot of vitriol and posts going on right now where there's this division. If you're a conspiracy theorist, you're crazy. If you think something more is going on, you're crazy. And you're therefore not taking it seriously. And I want to share my truth and my experience with this with all of the people I'm working with in the light worker space, who do a lot of deep inner work, who are talking about things from a different level of consciousness and awakeness in our society. And my experience in that space is that it's both. That yes, we are now in a situation where it doesn't matter what caused it. Yes, we can have that conversation over here. We can have that conversation and listen to the fact that there is something else going on. We don't know what, but we know enough high profile people, and Robert Kennedy's a great one I mentioned to follow on his Instagram page. We know enough people are saying something more is going on here. And we know from history that that is something that governments, that big pharma, that different industries have done for many, many years, is hide things. And we will probably find that out later. Now, is it important to be aware of that? Absolutely. Otherwise we're asleep, we're sheep. Is it important that we look at things outside of the general media? I mean, if I was at home right now, I would not be watching Fox 24 hours a day. It's important to get diverse information. It's important to get trusted information. It's important not to get information that is really repetitive and in a brainwashing kind of way like Fox and CNN can be. So is it important to be awake and open-minded and to know what's going on? Absolutely. Is it just as important to go, none of it matters right now in terms of what we're doing today in our homes? Right now, we have mass graves being dug in New York City. We have Lombardy gone from 750 ICU beds to needing 4,000. They're building makeshift hospitals all over the country. So is there a reality to this being severe? I saw some people in Australia, because, I have people all over the world on my Facebook post. And I saw some people in Australia commenting that, well, why are we even locking down? The numbers are so small, there's hardly any deaths. And what we have to remember is there were only 70 confirmed cases across the entire US in March, a month ago. And we now have mass graves being dug in New York City. So wake up. It doesn't matter whether you believe why this happened, it is happening now. And so, yes, right now we need to look after those people who are vulnerable and who are old, and we need to stop being selfish and thinking just about ourselves. Oh, I'm bored, or I want to go out of the house, or I can't do this for too long, or I'll just go and make 10 trips to the supermarket instead of one. We need to understand that we are being called as a collective to support one another, to support humanity, to rise up, to step up into that space of oneness. Now, when we look at past global events that may have been sent as messages to wake humanity up, if we look at the bushfires, if we look at the Amazon, if we look at all the different places that have been hit by storms and tornadoes and tsunamis, it was very individual. And it was very easy to say, wow, I can't believe that's happening in Australia. 500,000 animals dead from bushfires. But that's over there. It was very easy for it to be happening to someone else on the other side of the world. What this experience is calling humanity to understand is there is no separation. It is hitting everybody in every country in every possible way. Now, it is different for each person. Some people have the money and the resources that this hasn't really affected their life very much. But maybe it's affecting them because they have to be at home with 3 screaming children in a small space. Maybe it's affecting them because their elderly parents are sick. Maybe it's affecting them because they have respiratory issues. So it's triggering. I worked with a client who had had a transplant. And so for her, this was so triggering, even though nothing had happened, just being like that, germs are everywhere, bacteria, like the freaking out of how this could affect her. Death. This is triggering anyone who has challenges around the idea and concept of death and dying. So I feel one of my truths is that I think of this vibration, and I mean virus, but I think of this virus as a vibration. I think of this virus as a frequency. I think of this virus in a similar way to how plant medicines work, like ayahuasca and bufo, for anyone who's had experiences with plant medicines. Now, how they work is they give every individual an individual experience. So if you take ayahuasca, one person might be vomiting and purging all night for 10 hours. Another might have no experience with purging. Another one might be shitting their pants. And everyone has a different dark night of the soul. You'll hear a lot of people saying that they thought they were dying or they died. And in listening to a lot of the testimony and people who I know personally who've had COVID, I'm hearing similar kind of statements that they felt like they were dying or they died on day 4 or 5. They are having similar experiences of it. You know, people are talking about in the CDC and the medical profession that they feel like it's mutating. Well, when you look at plant medicines, they're not mutating, but every single person receives a different experience because of their past, because of their journey, because of the medicine they need right now in their life. Whether that's stripping them down and helping some of the ego dissolve, whether that's humbling them and taking away some of what doesn't matter that they think matters in terms of finances or shelter, homes, whether it's giving them the medicine that they can survive anything, whether it's helping them to reflect on what death is. So there's so many different things for those. Tanya, Laurie, Scott, Brooke, just tuning in, Monica, give me some thumbs up, some emojis, let me know what you're thinking, what you're questioning. You can go back and watch the beginning, and I shared, you know, just this idea that we need to have more open-minded conversations right now. This is not a time about separation or division. Hey, Brooke. This is a time that we are being called to all have the same experience and to all be there for one another. Because even if it doesn't feel like it's directly impacting you, you have the capability of impacting everybody else by the choices you're making right now or not making. The choice to stay in versus going out, the choice of spreading it, the choice of not caring and being more dismissive about your way of interacting in the world versus going, wow, I may not be someone who's scared of this in terms of dying. I may be young and healthy and not be worried about it. And I think there is, you know, this is another one of my truths. I think it is important to maintain that kind of energy and attitude around it, because we know that our thoughts create our reality. And so if you feel something in your body, your cells, if you start obsessing about washing your hands every 20 minutes and your constant thought is, I might get sick, I might get sick, I might get sick, there's a good chance you're going to attract that frequency, that vibration of sickness. So what is better is to wash your hands, to be conscious, to be thoughtful, to understand this is serious, but also to stay strong in your own mental space, your own energetic space, your sovereignty, that I have a high immunity. You know, one of my girlfriends re-recorded an old German song you might have heard recently. You know, every little cell in my body's happy, every little cell in my body's well. You know, something like that that's catchy. I hear it in my head as I'm getting ready, and I literally feel every little cell in my body's happy. I also know that I will do everything I can to keep my vibration as high as possible right now so that my immunity's high. I know that if I get it, I'll do everything I need to do to receive the medicine that I need, the teachings I need, the lessons that I need, and I trust myself, my process, my life. So for you, if you're hearing people or seeing posts that you believe are conspiracy theories, because I want to really point that out, that's your truth. You believe, oh, that's bullshit, or that's not possible, or you read one thing from an uninformed source, or you hear something on Fox and you perceive that as truth. So I want to invite you to be more open-minded to other truths that are out there, because we do know that history repeats itself. And if we look at things like what happened in Germany with the Nazis, in school I remember people thinking, how is this possible? How could that many people be brainwashed? And it happens. There is truth to that. You know, the cigarette company, the opiates in Big Pharma, like this doesn't just get out there accidentally. This is very deliberate, and there are a lot of people in power who want to use it for evil. And so we don't need to be scared of that. We just need to be awake to it. We just need to choose to open ourselves up to other perspectives, to choose where we're going to get our sources of news and information from, to question it. And I would encourage anybody right now who is in America, who the majority of your news source is coming from something like Fox or CNN, to one, only watch 5 or 10 minutes a day, and two, get onto websites like the CDC and WHO, get out there and like get on the New Zealand, we call it a prime minister, not a president, get onto her Facebook page and see what she's sharing. Watch some of the other countries who are doing it well, rather than just watching Trump. Like, hear some of the other voices, hear the way they speak, hear what they're sharing, hear what they think is important. I think it's important right now to expand your mind, open your heart, and not see that as divisive of either or. I'm against him or her, I'm only for that. You know, you can have information on both sides. You can believe that more is going on here, and you can still be a responsible part of a person and part of your community and our society, and take the responsibility seriously that it doesn't matter how it's happened. We can look at that as we also do what's right in this moment for not just ourselves, but for others. I'm also seeing a lot of posts from people who are losing their mind, who are like, I can't be inside any longer. This is driving me crazy. Now, just think of Anne Frank. I think that we are spoiled in many, many, many ways, and we need, part of the medicine of this virus is to humble us and to bring us together. And so just take a beat, take a pause at the way you're handling this. If you are not being positive, if you are not stepping up for your community and family and people, that's okay. Sometimes we have to go through that and move through like a grief cycle of anger and denial, but make sure you don't get stuck in it. Make sure you do your work to get to acceptance. And part of getting to acceptance is not being afraid of this. I am not afraid. I understand the seriousness of it. I understand my responsibility, but I am not scared, worried. I have a deep trust. And this is another truth. If you go back and watch the whole video, for those just joining us now, this will probably be the third truth that I've shared that is my own truth. Now, I think that one of the reasons people are struggling with this a lot is because of their truth around what they think death means. Now, I have a perspective that just like we live as a child to an adult, and we have all of these years, I believe that we also have a child to adult, from the Kirsty who's living this human experience to my higher self, to my soul, to the hundreds of other lives that possibly I've lived in reincarnation. So for me, I don't fear death because I understand that I made the choice of this experience in this life, and this is how I'm showing up. This is what's going on for me in this particular life. And if this particular life is supposed to go through what feels like Armageddon, I have to trust that I'll be okay. Now, that doesn't mean when I've read some of this stuff, I haven't gone into panic and I haven't thought, oh my gosh, what is going on? There's so much more going on here than we possibly think. And what does that mean for us? Will we be more controlled? We don't know yet. But if that happens, I have a deep trust that I will be okay, that this is a choice that's been made not just by me, but by unity consciousness, by the collective consciousness. And so I trust that whatever's meant to happen will happen. And I also trust that if death is a part of my experience or the medicine I'm supposed to receive, and I'm ready for the next journey, then that will be a part of it. So I have a very different perspective on death. And there's a lady who I'm connected with on here who's a death doula, who helps people just like birthing to go through the process of death and see it in a different way. And my shaman in Peru passed away last year after a very long battle on and off with death, with knowing that he may die. And there were just so many beautiful lessons. I interviewed a palliative care nurse and what she taught me about what we can learn from the living, from those who are dying. I think we as a society need to see death in a very different way. And again, that's something to be open to if you have a strong fear of death, know that that's part of what the teaching is for you right now, to open your heart, to open your mind, to see it from a different perspective. a friend of mine shared a few weeks ago a post that said, 1,000 people were released from Italy in a day, and why are we not celebrating that? And of course, that would be just as important to celebrate. But I said to her, it was interesting they used the word released. And I said, why are we not thinking of those who are dying as being released? There can be a different perspective around the way that we see death that can be more surrendered, more trusting, that because when I very conscious that a lot of people follow me from all over the world, from all different walks of life, people who are living paycheck to paycheck, people who can't put food on the table right now, people who are in desperation and fear. And then I also have people from my real estate background who are very wealthy and millionaires. I have people who work for nonprofits. So I have people who are hit in lots of different ways, whether it's being hit financially and ruined, whether it's being hit in their relationships or the stress of their home environment right now. Everyone's getting hit in different ways, several actually getting the virus and having that kind of experience of what this is, and each of them in such a different way. And so for me, it's important to have this conversation because I want to open hearts and minds to be thinking about this in a different way. I want to see different things in my feed. I don't want people cutting people down for having a difference of opinion. I want you to be able to engage in that conversation. If you don't believe it, then scroll past it. If you don't want to, but don't get argumentative and just vomit your truth onto someone else or attack someone else's truth just because it's not true for you. Be curious. Ask them why they believe that. Ask them to share some links that maybe you haven't seen. Maybe you're missing something. Maybe you're not. Maybe you can share something back with them, but have the conversation in a loving way, not from fear, not from hate, not from attack, not from defensiveness. Have the conversation from curiosity and love, that we all want to work on this together. We all want to be as awake as possible, not believing the bullshit that's coming from puppet heads and brainwashing on the news. Be conscious and aware and careful about how much you take in and from where you take it in. I watched 60 Minutes a couple of weeks ago, and I do think they're a good program. I do think they're fairly balanced. I know some Aussies who've worked on the production there, but 60 minutes of it, I left feeling like I needed to get a bomb shelter and go out and buy all of the remaining toilet paper and baked beans. And I noticed that in my body, that feeling. And I went, okay, 60 minutes is too much. 60 minutes should be just 5 or 10 minutes. So just be conscious of how much you're putting in and from where you are choosing to get your information. I do not watch the news. I pretty much don't have televisions, and I chose to watch 60 Minutes with a friend, but I will not be doing that again. And most of my feedback, my news, comes from sources that I choose on my phone and device or on Facebook pages that I'm following. So be conscious, be open, awaken yourself, try to stretch your thinking, open your heart and mind to yourself and to your community, to your families. Understand that we really do need everyone to be in this together. You can have all your own thoughts in terms of what this might be and why this is, but it doesn't change the fact that we are digging mass graves in several countries right now. They're digging them in London, they're digging them in New York, they're digging them in Italy. And it could be coming to your neighborhood. So that is not to say that to be afraid. That is to say that to be smart. That is to say that to suck up the bullshit posts I'm seeing from people that, oh my God, it's been a month and I'm going to die. Come on. So understand that we need to do what's right as a bigger collective, and that if Anne Frank could do it, you can do it. And I'm pretty sure you're a lot better off in the home that you're in than they ever were. So be there, open your heart, open your mind, be there for everybody in as many ways as you possibly can. If somebody is struggling and can't even get food this week, please send me a private message. I'll see what I can do, share, reach out, and support you in as many ways as I can. If you go to my YouTube channel, there is a Kirsty TV, Kirsty, YouTube Kirsty TV. There is a COVID-19 playlist. When you click on the playlist, there are 17 videos for mental health, for anxiety, for fear. There's a guided shamanic vision quest, a meditation that you can do before bed to help you release fear and anxiety if you've been watching 60 Minutes like me. And if you just feel that you can't release things. So go to the COVID-19 playlist, share it with loved ones, get this information out there. Share, you know, that could be the thing that you do. You may not record a video like this, but you might share a video like this. Support getting people to be more open-minded, support sharing the right links that maybe people in your network aren't reading the same things. So don't be afraid. I think that's the last message I want you to leave you with is I could have been too scared to record this video, because when you put yourself out there, who's thought about sharing a post and then hasn't, because they've thought, oh gosh, I'm going to get so much flack on this. I'm going to be dealing all day with comments and messages. So we can get scared and shut down to share anything that's counter to what the mainstream is sharing and what you feel everyone else is open to. So that will be my final message to all of you, is share from love, share with a frame. You know, when you share these kinds of posts, put a comment on there that I don't want to spend all day arguing with people. I'm okay with you having a difference of opinion. I'm okay with you sharing other links, but this is a safe, sacred space, and I will delete or remove you if you attack me. That doesn't mean they can't have a difference of opinion. So you can put a frame around it. This is still my wall. This is still my safe space. And I want to start having these kinds of conversations because it's important and it matters. And I'm not going to be scared to post stuff because of the response that I may get, the backlash. So trust yourself. Trust yourself. We are all going to be okay. No matter how this is supposed to look for humanity, for ourselves, for the collective, we will all be okay. It is what it's supposed to be. So having that deep trust can provide some peace. I love you.